In this video, we're going to have a look at the Differential Unison engine of June 3. Before we do that, I just want to touch upon the amp envelope. Amp envelope obviously controls the amplitude. I'm sure we're all used to the controls here: attack, decay, sustain, release. We have the analog setting as well, which can be linked to the amplitude envelope, again for that kind of snappy envelope type. And we have an overall level, which basically corresponds to volume. So this is a way of just kind of taming the volume of the amp envelope overall as well. So if you want to change the sound contour of the volume, kind of main contour of the whole sound, then that's where you want to do it. Okay, so onto the Differential Unison engine. Now, the Differential Unison engine basically is a posh way of saying that we can stack up 8 different sounds with different sound parameter settings on top of each other to create really, really big, thick sounds, if that's what you want to go for. So the way we can do that is to actually choose the amount of voices from here. And we can have a maximum of 8. So it goes all the way up to 8 here. Now once we've done that, we can actually solo each voice by clicking on these buttons here. But let's actually just set something up so we can demonstrate this a bit easier. So I'll just put it to 2 voices. Now, in order to change the parameters for the individual voices, we need to access this pane here, the Common Voices Edit pane. At the moment it's set to all. So whatever I do now on the sound parameters front is going to affect all of these 8 voices simultaneously. Now this is something that you might want to do because you might just want to thicken up the sound that you have by adding extra voices and detuning and spreading them. And you might not actually want to change the parameters for each individual voice. But let's say we did want to do that. So now let's jump into the second voice. Let's come across and change it to something obviously different. So we'll put it onto a wavetable. And now we solo the 2 voices. You can hear we've got 2 different sound sources coming through. So I hope that's clear. We set the number of voices here. We can solo the voices from here. We do that by clicking them on and off when we want to solo them. And we edit by making sure we click on these Common Voices Edit buttons here, which allows us to flick between the voices we're layering essentially. Or if we want to work on all the voices simultaneously, then we click on the All button here. Okay, let's push this further. So let's add another voice in here. Let's come to the edit pane for this voice. Let's choose Wavetable again. Let's choose a different setting. And in fact, let's try pitching this down by 1 octave so we get a thicker kind of sound. Let's try adding in a little bit of noise as well. Do that down here. Let's add some width here. Let's solo this voice. There we go. Let's add in a 4th voice like so. Let's solo this 4th voice, come onto the parameters for this voice, and let's go to oscillator 1 and let's choose FM. Let's just change some of the settings here. Let's add in some extra oscillator voices, so thicken it up a little bit. Let's detune. Let's leave the tuning as it is there, but we'll spread and detune. Okay, take this off solo. And now we have that sound which is consisting now of 4 stacked voices which are all made up of different parameters from here. And of course we could go through and change the filter settings if we wanted to. So you'll see that the filter is now changing for that voice compared to voice 2 as well. So we could change the actual type of filter we have. Let's try a comb filter, a bit of resonance. Solo this voice. Okay, we're clipping a little bit here, so let's just turn down the master volume. Pretty cool. Now when we're adding in modulation, let's choose a source here. So we'll go LFO1. Let's set the destination as filter cutoff. We can actually choose which voice we want to do this to. So let's say we wanted this to be voice 4. Bring up the amount. So now we've got the LFO only affecting the filter cutoff of voice 4 because that's what we have selected in the voice column here. Pretty cool. Something else we can do is copy and paste a voice from one slot to the next. And also what we can do is decide whether we want a voice to be arpeggiated through arpeggiators 1 and 2, and also whether we want it to be fed through our effects bus as well. So obviously we haven't talked about effects yet, but let's put something in here. Let's make this active. Let's just turn things up a little bit. So now for each one of these, we can choose whether we want it to go through that effects bus or not. And also whether we want it to be arpeggiated. Now what's more, we can also use the glide on a voice by voice basis. So let's bring up the glide for voice 4. And you see it's not up for the other voices. So we can do that on a voice by voice basis as well. Now we don't have to obviously make every single sound this way. You might just want to thicken up a sound in the kind of usual way you'd use Unison, and we can do that. So we just turn up the number of voices. And we can use a spread and detune amount to actually spread those voices as you would do with any other Unison control. And remember, we have our oscillator Unison as well. So actually if we start adding these voices in too, and we're going to start to create some really, really thick super sort of sounds. Really, really nice. And that is the differential Unison engine. Now I'm sure we'll come back to this when we do some sound design examples, but we'll leave it there for now. So just to recap, June 3 allows you to have 8 stacked voices. And whereas in other synthesizers, they are generally identical voices to your kind of main oscillator voice, in June 3 these can actually be made up of different sound parameters. So it's really like having a synth which is stacking up 8 different sounds. We determine the number of voices by clicking and dragging on here. We can solo the voices by clicking on our solo buttons here. To edit the voices, we can either choose all, which will affect every single voice, or we can have the ability to change sound parameters for each one of our 8 slots. We can choose to have these going through the arpeggiators and the effects buses. We can have different glide settings for each one of our voices, and we can copy and paste voices as well. And that is the differential Unison engine. Really, really powerful stuff. Okay, so now that's covered, in the next video I want to have a look at the wavetable editor. So I'll see you then. Thanks a lot for watching.